All right, y'all, it's Jordan. So, I'm just giving you an update on my leg. And also, I said that I would share the nitty gritty. I would share the failures. I would share all my crazy stories of things that I guess possibly look like they failed, but they became successes. But I want to share with you my lessons and stuff. But I am doing pretty good. If you see my leg, I kind of got a little brace. I'm feeling a lot better. My swelling went down. I could actually walk better. I could put a lot of weight on it. I'm healing very fast. Ironically, I think I'm healing so fast because of before I hurt my calf, before I hurt my leg, I was doing the dry fast. So I actually completed 4 days dry fast of no food, no water. So I had none to eat, none to drink, and my body, I noticed like a lot of things in my body were healing. This is my third one I did. I did one for um, 3 days in May, and then I did another one. It was 4 days in. I'm sorry, it was 3 days in April and 4 days in May. So I've been pretty healthy. I lost a lot of weight. There's a lot of things that were going on in my body that I healed. I'm completely, completely healed of a lot of ailments because of those fasts, I believe. And so it's my third dry fast. I think I'm done for this year, but I feel pretty good. I'm probably gonna do like a juice and parasite cleanse, not a dry fast, but another one. But anyway, let's talk about this. I want to talk about a story when I was on the road. It's gonna be, I guess, one of my first video. Let's call it my tour chronicles. So I'm gonna share a story with you from when I was on the road, working as a musician, and something that a hard lesson I had to learn about worth and self-value and value. And I hope this helps somebody, because if you are a creator, if you're an artist, if you're a business person, entrepreneur, and you are dealing with other people, I believe that there are certain things, certain lessons that are not told or talked about, and you kind of learn them, by way of school, the hard knocks. And that's kind of how I had to learn this lesson. So I was traveling, and disclaimer, I'm not going to be revealing any names because I don't want to damage anybody's reputation. I don't want nobody trying to come after me, sabotage stuff. And, I'm not here to defame or to, mess anybody's reputation up or anything like that. But I'm going to tell my story because this is my life. This is my experience. And I have, I believe, a freedom and a right to speak up and talk about what I went through. And so I am going to be authentic and share that. So I'm going to be authentically truthful and share my experience. Now, I was traveling with a televangelist a couple of years ago. This might have been about, let's say, about almost 10 years, a little less than 10 years ago. And I was traveling with this televangelist, and I remember we were going a lot of places, right? And this ministry that I was working with, that I was in, it was at a place where we didn't have much manpower. There weren't too many resources. The ministry was kind of, being built up, in that time. And so me being young, I was eager, I was just ready to get out there. I was like, man, God has expanded my borders. He's opening up the four walls for me to travel the world and spread the good news and do his work and really touch lives. And so I was eager, but I was naive. And so I was young, and I was basically, I was taking on all these different gigs, and I was traveling, and there were many times where I wasn't making any money. I remember going to some countries, some states, and I would come back and I was like, I was almost in a deficit. It was like, wow, I went here and people seeing me thinking that, wow, Jordan's doing his thing. He's traveling the world doing music and this and that. He's around all these high profile, Christian televangelists and preachers and prophets and this and that. And it's like, but I was, what I was experiencing was nothing like what it looked like. And I remember specifically, there was one time that we started doing these bigger events. And so at that time, we started bringing in certain people. We started bringing in like really bigger gospel artists and singers, things like that. And then we started hiring like really high level certain musicians. And there was one specific um, televangelist, high profile evangelist, and we started hiring and bringing in their musicians. And so we would do these conferences like every month. And I remember specifically in the beginning, so we do the conferences, and man, and I'm handling everything, guys. So know that we're doing these conferences, and me as a music director, because at that time, I had kind of elevated. I showed myself how could I say, I showed myself reliable, I showed myself capable, I showed myself efficient, my skills and my knowledge and my aptitude of what I can do, so far for the ministry and my professionalism and everything. And so they trusted me to be the music director and handle everything. And unfortunately, at that time, the ministry had other people that were coming in working, but I believe that they were either inexperienced, they were people who wanted a free ride, they were people who really weren't doing what they needed to do. And so because of that, a lot of balls got dropped. And a lot of fires had to get put out. And because how I am, I'm a prophetic person. I see problems and I see solutions, and it's like I can't help it, but I see everything. I see everything that's going to go wrong. I see everything that's going to go right. I see everything I see the system that's needed to be implemented for things to work. And basically, these people that were coming in to do certain jobs, they didn't do it. So I was hired to be the music director. I was just supposed to direct the musicians, direct the band, make sure the band was flowing for the services and the conferences, so that way the preachers, they can come in, they can preach, they can prophesy, they can work in signs and wonders and things like that. They can let the Holy Spirit flow. That was my job. But even before we got to that point, people got to realize that there are things that have to be done for these conferences. You got to fly people in. You got to make sure they eat. You got to make sure they have lodging, right? You got to make sure that there's equipment there, especially depending where you go, whether you're going to church or you're going to a hotel. You got to make sure that everything is provided for so far as the AV, the audio, video, visual, and the lighting. You got to make sure the cameras are there and the lights. You got to make sure all that stuff gets shipped. You got to make sure that you follow union regulations. There's a lot of things. You got to make sure, right, that there are rehearsals for the band. The band, sometimes they have certain requests. Some people can't eat certain things. They might be vegetarians, or some people have illnesses and they can't stand up too long. So they might need certain accommodations in order for them to, be efficient in their jobs. And so for me, I was handling a lot of what the band the band requests. But because, going back with what I was saying, a lot of people were dropping the ball, right? Like the event managers and the road managers, all these other people, their roles that was supposed to be facilitating with their job positions, they weren't doing them. And so I would have all these different musicians and all these different staff people ask me, Jordan, we need help with this. What do we do? Where is this? How do we get here? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, did you talk to this person? They're like, no, we don't know where they are. They're not picking up the phone. Nobody's here. And I would be calling the people trying to find them. Nobody's picking up the phone. And they would say, and then I finally get to the person, the head person. They guess what happened? They said, Jordan, handle it. And I'm sitting. And me, like I said, I was young, I was eager, I was naive. So I said, okay. I sucked it up, and I thought that's what you had to do. I didn't speak up, and I said, okay. And I went and I handled it. So you see, I'm a music director now, making sure people would get booked in their hotels. I'm making sure people got their Ubers home. There was time, me and one of my buddies, we were putting out money so people could eat, right? Sometimes I was giving people money so they could get from the Uber or from the airport to the hotel, because I wanted to make sure everybody was taken care of. So I was making sure that everybody was good, and I was going way beyond what my job description was, what I was getting paid for. And this one particular thing, we finally finished the event. We got through everything. I got through everything. So I get home, and now it's time. Everybody sends me the invoices. Again, I'm just a music director, but now, I'm handling payroll. So now everybody. So I was told, Jordan, tell everybody, have contact everybody, get the emails, make a spreadsheet. So I was very good with that. I made sure I managed things. I had templates and emails, all types of stuff, templates and invoices, and then so I would have all musicians, all singers. A lot of the staff send me the invoices, and of course on the stage I'm having a music director and do all that stuff as well. And so I remember getting some invoices. And I got some invoices from some musicians. And when I looked at the numbers, I'll be honest, I got a little upset. I was the one doing all the work. I was the one basically I was the one in charge, to be honest. Like when it was time to do everything and everybody had problems, they came to me. See, the other people that had to preach and do all the other stuff, they didn't come out till it was showtime. But I was there before showtime. I was there days before showtime. I was hours before showtime, making sure everybody's good, handling everything. And I'm not complaining, but what I want to articulate my point is that I saw those invoices, and I saw one person putting in thousands of dollars for payment, and I saw another person put $1,000 payment, and then I saw myself when I put my invoice, it was hundreds of dollars of payment, and I said, "Whoa." I said, really? I said, this is, and then I spoke to leadership. And they said, oh, no. Well, Jordan, they've been doing this for a long time. They work with this person. They work with that, da, 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 da. And I said, I understand that. But I said, I'm not a money hungry person, and I'm not trying to siphon money out of you guys, but I think it's only fair that I feel like I'm being paid beneath my worth. And I kind of told them that before as well. And so, we had a conversation. They kind of just blew it off. And there was actually a time before this as well, like maybe a year before this, and I hired one person. And this is before we started doing these big meetings. And the same thing happened. I looked at the numbers. I said, how does this person get paid so much money? And I'm like, they're not doing nothing as near as I am. I'm the one reaching out, finding these people and bringing them in. And it was crazy and I didn't speak up that first time. And the second time it happened again. And I really didn't speak up. And what I did is I got really upset and I quit. And I sent a resignation letter in, and they called me and said, Jordan, why are you resigning? What are you doing? Are you crazy? They said, what do you need? More money? We'll give you more money. and I was like, what? And I had to pray about it. And, I wound up staying, and they wound up giving me more money. But I had to realize, and as I went down the road, I had to realize more and more that you've got to speak up for your worth. See, I didn't state my worth. I didn't speak up. I didn't say like, well, this is how much it is. This is how much this is my rates. This is my worth. And basically, if you don't negotiate or state your worth, people will state your worth for you. And it's sad it had to happen like that. It's sad to be in ministry like that. It's sad I had to go through that, but it definitely taught me something about, speaking up and opening your mouth. And I believe no matter where you are, whether you're in church, whether you're in business, whatever, you've got to state your worth, your value, right? You don't get paid for your worth necessarily. You get paid for your value, and you get paid for what you negotiate. But I've even discovered that no matter your value, if you don't know your value, you won't get compensated for it. You'll get compensated for whoever's paying you thinks that you should be. And a lot of times it's out of alignment. And so it's not to say that, you need to be aggressive or, need to cut people off or demand all this, astronomical amounts of money. But you need to be clear on what your worth is, and also be ready to step away if that's not it, because there is somebody that will pay your worth. And so I continued. I decided to continue, and then there came a point after a while where they just randomly came. It was like, Jordan, we see your work, we see what you're doing, we appreciate it. So what we want to do is we want to pay 60% of your housing. So wherever you live, wherever you rent, we're going to pay 60%, and we're going to put you on a retainer. And so they put me on a retainer. They gave me a housing allowance, and as well as whenever I traveled, I would get paid. And so, as I became, as I think I continued to give my value, because I didn't stop giving my value. I spoke up, but I didn't stop giving my value. I kept giving my value, and I kept giving my value, and after a while, they saw, my worth. But I want to let you know that not all times people will see your worth. Not all times people will do the right thing and pay you what you're worth. I had to step away, unfortunately, and I think when I did that a few times, some people got scared and they were like, well, Jordan's too valuable here, what he does here, what he brings. And then of course they had to, I believe they started making decisions based on seeing what I could do. And yeah, so that's one of my stories on the road is I had to learn about self-worth and value. And that was something I went through my whole life, like not speaking up, not saying what I wanted, kind of just taking anything. Unfortunately, I think that was some of my childhood. It was kind of like I wasn't allowed to speak up and defend myself. It was like, shut up and take what you get. Don't you complain. And I would get punished if I would speak up or talk. So I basically just became that person who accepted anything. And it really, I think, damaged and limited me later on in life. It gave me, in some ways, a great work ethic and a great resilience. But it also had me playing small. And so, if you're not speaking up, I want to encourage you to no longer play it small. Speak up for yourself. Speak up for your worth. Of course, show your worth. Show what your value is. And then demand it. You can demand it kindly. You can demand it professionally. You can demand it tactfully. But state it. State your worth. Don't ask for it. And don't wait for somebody to tell you. Demand your worth, state it. Because you don't get paid what you're worth. You get paid what you negotiate. And you get paid for the value that you accept. So my friends, I hope this helped you. I'm gonna see you in the next video. Tune in, I'm gonna share some more stories about so many things, about value, all that kind of stuff. Self-worth, my journey of overcoming, resilience, healing. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Peace.